So what we're going to do now is put on exhausts. So these are individual little pieces that are cut out, the little brown things down there. There's one that isn't formed yet. They're kind of triangular almost. And what I did was, as usual, curl them over and pre-form them. In this case, I used that little tool there just to roll it over. Anything would work as long as it's got a round cross section. These are they tend to look, to me anyway, to be kind of thin, skinny in there. That's why I use that skinny little tool. It's probably like a 1/16 of an inch, maybe a little more in diameter. So that's a pretty small thing. But now they're all formed, and now you simply take them, dip them in glue. My little hedgehogs are helping me out there. Those of you who don't know who Simon's Cat is, it's a really cute cartoon. You should go look it up on the internet. Put a little glue on there, and then all you do is slide it in underneath where those exhaust shrouds are. Now, in the original model, there were little lines that showed you exactly where to put them. All I've done is use my, little resources, little research I've done, and I know where they're supposed to go. So you just start putting them in one after the other. This again is hard to do without on camera, but there I've kind of positioned it. It's straight. It's where it's supposed to be. The rest is just the same. It's not rocket science. Take the next one, fold it up, and put some glue on it. The only difference is that when you put this next one in, you want to make sure you sort of nest it in the first one. That's important because you just put them, they have to be sort of inside each other. The front end goes into the back end of the one in front of it. So I put this in, I push it forward. Again, it's hard to do on the silly camera. Someday I'll learn how to do this the right way. You play around and then you get them into a line like that. So you're just trying to look for even, because they would be emanating from the engines and the real airplane. And there they are, done. They look pretty cool, actually. I was going to paint them. I'm not going to bother. To me, the color's neat. And then once I start putting weathering on there, that'll help weather them a little bit. If I want to paint them again later, do something to make them look a little rustier, or put some edge work on them, I can do that too. That's no problem. But anyway, that's what they look like. I got all of them on there, all 24 of them, I guess. And they kind of finished off that front end. It looks pretty cool. Now I can't really do the dumb spinners. That's going to be kind of fun. So here it is, just showing you that I painted on the last of the crosses. And I don't remember if I pointed those out to you, and did it just like I did on the fuselage. Very same thing, nothing spectacular. That's why I didn't show you. In fact, they were easier on the wings. I also put in my little number or letter. In this case, I chose a V. I saw one that looked like this with a V on it. Now, mine's not accurate to a specific aeroplane, but that's how I put that on, again, with a stencil. So everything's painted on except for the lower crosses on the lower wings and the swastikas. Then these are the cannons. They're made out of hypodermic needles. You could just make them out of stretched sprue or a piece of aluminum tubing, perhaps, if you got to find a small, or a piece of brass tubing. These I just got from work and cut them up. And I'm going to slide them in. Of course, they're going to be cut down, but I've made little pre-holes for where they're going to go. That'll make it look finished in the front, give me some armor. It's going to be pretty awesome. So, coming together, the next thing to do now is to start my little post shading with the airbrush, and that will go a long way to making it look more finished, give it a little weathering, not make it look just so flat and two-dimensional. Give some depth to the paint. At least that's the plan. So that is what's up in about 2 seconds. So today I'm going to try a different approach with my camera. I have it strapped to my person, and I'm hoping that that's going to let me sort of airbrush things and let you see what I'm seeing and not be so worried about excuse me, how to actually keep the thing in view. But we'll see how it goes. I'm not sure about this either. Anyway, what I have done is finished all the basic painting on of the basic markings. I got all my crosses on. You can see that in this case, I ended up, it's not a particular airplane, so I don't feel bad about doing this, but I have a V on here, and I think it's supposed to actually be just an outlined white piece, but I didn't do that. And I got the V on the other side. Anyway, it's all looking pretty good. I also added my cannons on the nose here, so that it's now armed to the teeth. And so now, and it's all basically painted, you know, it's basically ready to go. So now the fun part starts to me, which is something called post shading, which just means airbrushing and adding little bits and pieces to various components to make it look a little more interesting. For example, running some airbrushing around, for instance, intakes and things around where there's control surface hinges, various things to make it dirty up a little bit, make it look a little more interesting. Also, I can start adding my wonderful exhaust streaks, because I put my exhaust in before. So that's in and ready to go. So there's a lot of little things to do. And so I'm just going to show you kind of generally how I go about doing it. There's a bunch of ways to do this, but this is going to be the way I do it. And what I do is I use a very dilute form of basically black and brown, at least initially, to do some simple things. I add a fair amount of whatever my thinner of choice is, in this case, this alcohol. And I'm going to use a little mixture, as I said, of basically black and a brown color, which I have to go find. I left them inside. Hold on. Okay, Nimrod has returned. So I'm using this brown color here, and I just put a little bit on the brush and stick it in here to tint the thinner, essentially. And then take some black to do the same thing. And the idea is to come up with a color that's sort of a black color, but with some brown tint in it. I don't want it to be either brown or black. I want it to sort of be something in between. I do take off the tip of the airbrush so that I can do very delicate, careful painting. And just give you an idea, this is the color I have coming out right now anyway. Might be a little bit too brown, but let's kind of spin it around here a little bit, make sure. Might need a little help there, a little more black, but let's see what happens. But I'm going for something that is a good color. That's kind of a dirty mix, and I think I actually need more thinner in there. I don't want it to be, you're basically just tinting the thinner. You know, it's something that you need to put layers on. And I am going to put a little more black in here because I do think it needs it. You are layering. And the idea is to, as I said, when you start putting this down, that's a little better. You've got to be able to you put on multiple layers as opposed to one big thick layer. You want to be able to actually put something that just makes things look damp, but then as you go over a few times, then it's the color you want. Now I'm going to lower the pressure on my, a little high maybe. I'm lowering the pressure on the compressor, hoping that I want to get a nice flow, but nothing that's really like flying out of there at 1,000,000 miles an hour. So we're going to start with that, and we're going to start someplace that you're not going to notice at first as much, which is a good place to do that is the tails. And we're going to go underneath here, and we're going to try to put some color back here. Just along the demarcation of the so you see what happens there, And if you wanted to, instead of doing pre-shading, which most people do, you could actually put your, if you wish to, I don't think I will do this, but if you wanted to, you could very carefully put in something that is basically shading very carefully some of those lines to make them look a certain way if you wanted to do that. I'm just trying to kind of dirty things up a little bit just to make it look a little more interesting. It definitely needs to look more interesting in my opinion. But I don't mind that color, at least on the tail surfaces. So I'm going to go ahead and put this on here. And this is just, that was a mistake. This is just to sort of make things look a little more interesting. I might even, since I did it on here, I'll do this on this side too, just so I can make it even. I won't do that on most of it though, because I can't ever draw a straight line very well. But another way to look at this is you want it thin enough so that when you put it down, you can actually use the air. Oops, that was an oops. You can just use the air, which is just pushing the trigger in order to dry it off, and then you can see what it's going to look like. But already, it's starting to look a little interesting. Put a little bit of darkness in between where the bits of fabric are, the rib cakes would be. Just a little. I can try to extend that. That doesn't look like such a mistake. That's all right. Okay. So that is a start. Let's see what happens on the top, because now this, in other words, is this color dark enough? Will it actually make a look good on the tails? Let's see. Let's put some on the stabilizer here. And then in between, just to sort of make it so that that's a slightly different hue than the surrounding area. Maybe we'll try a little bit of it along here as well. Just to make things look a little more interesting. That's actually not so bad. In real color, you can't see it that well, but in real color, it's just giving it a little bit of a different shade. And maybe I'll, for instance, you can put some random shots of color on there, and just enough to give it some character, essentially. So do the same thing over here. Try to give this a little. Just a little of this weird color in between. It'll darken everything slightly. And just give it a little different hue. Notice I didn't touch the, I did not touch the, I tried not to touch the trim tab, but the trim tab is metal. These things I'm doing now, I think, are supposed to be fabric. Okay. Now let's go down the control line. Or where the, this is representing like little bits of oil and grease and things that might get stuck in there. And actually, like I said, in person it's very delicate, and it's actually about what I want. And I will draw a few lines here and there. And see, if you take this and you do it, it takes several times, several little applications to make it look good. It isn't automatic. And I get the thickness just about right, because it takes me several times to get that to actually look like something. Again, when I look at this in person, you got poor lighting, I can actually see that that actually looks pretty good. It's just enough when you look at it, you go, hey, there's something else going on there, but you can't quite put your finger on it. That's sort of ideal. Just enough. See, like right there. I hope you can see this. There's a little bit of a different color between this and this lighter that growl violet piece. I think it looks pretty good. I might make the control surfaces here a little more obvious. Because again, they're supposed to be a slightly different hue, simply because they are not, they're supposed to be fabric, from what I understand. If you do too much, you can always kind of blow through it and open things up a little bit. This side needs a little bit more. This, though, is my favorite thing to do. I enjoyed doing this, because it does sort of help bring the model to life a little bit. And I think that's kind of fun. So already, the tail is looking slightly dirty. Starting to look like there's something else going on, which is the idea. And the undersides are good. See, this is where the wheels are, so I'll probably put a little bit of random dirt here to represent where stuff could come up from the field. And hit the tips of the tails, maybe. And then there'd be little bits and pieces of dirt and things on the, kind of randomly, I would think, along the airplane. But see, already that's looking more interesting. You're going for interest more than anything else. Every once in a while, take your airbrush, shoot it out, open it up all the way, give yourself that better color, some more color coming out. So now, before we do some more here, I want to see if I can show you the beginnings of trying to do a exhaust. So I'm going to go ahead and put a little exhaust here. And I really should go look at how it looks in real life. From what I saw, it was pretty heavy. And we'll put more on here later. But I'm just trying to get it to look interesting again. So anyway, there's tail again. Show you kind of what that looks like. There's the top of the tails, and it's much harder to see. Like I said, in person, if you're standing right here next to me, you can actually see that it looks kind of cool. Here, where you're looking, it just looks like no difference hardly, but trust me, there's a difference. Okay, so what I'm going to do is basically do that over the whole airplane. Come over here, and I know, for instance, some of these little circles are supposed to be little inspection panels and things, so I'll put a little bit of this color coming off of them in the direction of airflow. So that's supposed to represent whatever fluid is in there. That's, you know, coming out, and it's starting to go along the, it's starting to spill out. You know, the people are not perfectly anal retentive about putting fuel on there, so you're starting to see little bits of streaming flow. And you can do that with panels too. You can sort of imagine that you know, there's a panel right along here. And I can see that, you know, put a little bit of this color along that panel. And you can sort of force it down anywhere you see a line that you think needs it. A few shots of color, and already, yeah, that's looking pretty cool. It's just enough, or I'll put it around like the base of the nacelles down here. I figure dirt and grime and such end up hanging out here, so I'll put this around here. Just enough so that I figure it highlights it a little bit, but this is where you would get some wear and tear, or at least some extra little bits of dirt and grime or oil, and then the oil is going to collect the dirt and grime. And so already that's looking cool. And you vary your approach a little bit. I assume at the wing root here might be a little bit funny down in there. Now again, hit that, see with just the air, just push down the trigger and not pull back. You can dry it down and see what it's going to look like. You can also start to do things like gun noses, where there's going to be maybe some soot. So I'm going to put a little bit here, just so it looks like there's something going on. And just, again, you don't want to put a lot of this on, because otherwise it will look really dumb. But that's what I'm going to do with this. Slowly add little extras here and there, just to make it give some extra depth and color. And again, I don't think you can see this very well, but it's already, like I said, looking better. And we put some chips, paint chips and stuff on this, some silver or some light colors coming through. This will look super awesome. So I'm just going to keep playing around with this and show you later how it goes. Okay, so this is after my first run. And you can see where things are highlighted and given a little extra oomph. So you can see things a little better. What I have to do now, I think, is go back and do the same thing with a little bit of a lighter color. Lighten up some panels, things like that, just to make it look, again, a little more interesting. But already it looks a lot better than it did. I got my exhaust streaks on there. It just looks more finished. And we start putting chips and things around there, it'll look even better. So, not bad. Didn't take that long, maybe a half hour or so out in the garage. And again, each layer you put on, the more interesting it's going to look, the better it's going to be. And so I'll put probably some light. So basically take these base colors, add a little tan, light tan or buff to them, and then maybe highlight a few panels. I'll see. What I really want to do is take off that tape. That's going to be exciting. I'll take that off live with you guys just to see. That way I can't cheat. I'm really curious to see how that looks. But overall, it's starting to look more and more finished. And we put some paint chips on there and stuff. It'll look really cool. Then we'll start playing with the landing gear. We'll start playing with these spinners. And it'll be getting close to getting done. I'll be dang. Pretty cool. So, as promised, here I'm taking off these little masks. Now this is tremendously exciting. It actually is. This is a really fun part if things work. And so here I'm taking these off, and it's so much fun. I've gone through and I've done some highlighting and things. I haven't done any paint chipping yet, but I can do that without the canopy on. I can't wait to see how much overspray there is, how many mistakes there are. never made a clean canopy before. They always end up having some issues. And this will be no different. This one in particular I'm worried about because the tape has been on there for like 26 and a half years. And I think, uh-oh, it kind of curled up at times, and I put some extra bits on top before I sprayed because I imagine that it's, how much overspray and underspray got under these pieces. But man, as I'm pulling it apart, it's coming, it's coming out really nice. It's so nice to see into that cockpit. I worked so dang hard on that thing. And this is a big enough airplane you can actually see stuff. My enemies are going to be, paint overspray, and perhaps if there's little bits of debris and stuff in the cockpit, because there are holes here in the nose and elsewhere. And I imagine that it's possible that I might have some issues. But man, if most of it is good and there's a couple little blemishes, I just pretend those are, seagulls attacked it and left their marks on it or something. But anyway, if you've never masked a canopy or unmasked it, this is what you got to do. If I was smart, I'd use like a toothpick, because a toothpick, you're not going to scratch the plastic. But I'm being very careful. And you take it off very slowly, because if you pull it off too fast, you can end up pulling the paint up and it cracks, and then you're in trouble. So far, there's a little blemish in there, but I don't care. So far, it's looking all right. Like I said, this is tremendously exciting. You can go and get a cup of tea or something. Sometimes they come off in a big sheet like that, which is very satisfying. But the cool thing is the interior is still there, and I've forgotten how much stuff I did on that. So the interior looks really cool now. And in fact, the whole airplane looks so much better without the canopy being masked. It looks like it's supposed to. And I, as I went through, I didn't have any trouble taking everything off. Sometimes it's hard to find the edges of things because they've been down so long, and that tape is very good. And so when it's flat, it's sometimes hard to even tell where the tape is and where the clear plastic begins. But you can see she's coming off nice. And the watchword here again is just being careful. In terms of what I painted extra, I painted the cannons in the back for the gunner. You can kind of see them. They're a different color. They're kind of a metallic gray color. And if you look carefully, although it's very subtle, there is some lighter shading that I put on it for highlights, sort of forced highlights on things, on the tops of the nacelles, on the dorsal part of the fuselage and the canopy. Went overboard on the left wingtip up there. You can see it's kind of light on that tip, and so I might have to go back and do some touch up, which again is not impossible with an airbrush. You grab the original color and you mist it on, so it's not like it's the end of the world. You never end up destroying something. It can be a pain to fix it, or you're so upset, you're so excited to get something done, and then that happens, and that stinks. But worse things happen at sea. So anyway, I highlighted little things, like you can see those little inspection panels and or oil covers where things get put into the engine, or maybe there's gasoline covers. Those were hit with a little slightly lighter color. Again, subtlety is the key. It's too obvious, it's gonna look silly. I did end up, as I said in the little drawings or the little titles in the video, I did end up kind of highlighting all the panel lines, and some of it I think it's overdone, but the overall effect I think looks okay. This was really in vogue a while ago in plastic models, and you go to a show and things looked really silly. This one is not so bad. So here she is. Look at that. It all came off. A couple places I got to touch up, but in general, look at that. Man, she looks so much cooler now with that stupid tape off. And I can see all the neat stuff I did on the inside. Now I'm ruining the day I didn't make the canopy open, but that would have been very difficult, and I'm still very satisfied with it. Yeah, I'm just pointing out that I painted those little guns, and dang, I might take a break from this stuff and maybe either do spinners or start the landing gear and the wheels, because those will be the next difficult thing, will be the landing gear to get it in there. Got to build supports under there and make the oleo struts and stick them up there. I might try to put the spinners on because it would look cool with spinners. They're going to be black and white. Sweet.